So I'll do this exercise again, this time with polyline function to see it's the same thing, and then I'll show you how you can go from one function to another. I'll just hit here. I'll need to do it with 3 meters. How can you tell me your coordinates, or no? Okay, it's 0.3. Then I have 2 meters on left, -2, and 0.2, right? 0.2, and the last part will be -0.2 on x, and 4. 0.2, I think, and 0.3. If I made a mistake, I have this back function which will take me from the last point. So this is really useful if I'm drawing a polyline. And I'm doing the same trick again. I just take it, hold it a bit to get that point here and here. And I'll see here the intersection of them. First it can be better if you think it's easier to just say 4. I can do this, of course, but I also want to teach you some tricks. Of course, I can do it with all by entering only coordinates, but you'll see that these reference points are really useful in when modeling anything. And then I'll say this with area detection and hit here. Now I have 100, and I want to add some information, and I'll see here, let's say I'll fix it here. I'll add some text. For instance, I say horizontal text, and I'll say footing here, and for this text I will only need to tell the program in millimeters or inches, and in the settings we'll set, if we are working in millimeters or inches, how I want it on the paper. So it's not the scaling here. When entering the text, I'll only have to tell the program how I want it on the paper, as if I'm drawing it manually. Even though we'll do plans where we have 5, 6 different scales on the same piece of paper, all the dimensions and text will have the same size, because the program will automatically do the adjustments. So when I'm defining a description here, I'll always say it how I want it on paper, in inches or millimeters. And also I can select here, I'll make it a bit smaller to, let's say, no, I'll let it 2.5, and I'll tell it I want it in a text box. Okay, but not twice, I'll only say it once. So I can select it and enclose it in a circle or in a text box. And most important, I can automatically apply background fill. So I'll remove the hatching behind the text just by clicking this. No, it was something else. No, it's actually Unicode preview now. I don't know. I want to see if they did change something here. But I entered this text, and I'm going to change the scale for the detaining of this. I don't want to be this footing. Just a second, is something strange here. Okay. Yes, I can enter a background for the text, and it was black, and this is why it was confusing. So what I did was enter a background for this text, and now if I move the text, it will automatically remove the hatching behind it. So anywhere I place it, it will fix the hatch, so it's easy to be read. And you've seen, if I'm going to draw this one on this scale, 1 to 100, it's really big text, because this is 5 meters long. If I'm doing the scale, I'm going to draw it 100 times smaller than in reality. The drawing will be a few centimeters. So this is normal according to the scale. So actually, by changing the scale, I'm changing the size of the drawing and not the text. However, the illusion is the fact that I'm changing the text size. So this will be a really great advantage, and you'll see it further on that it's greater than than AutoCAD, because in AutoCAD the dimension of the text is depending on the drawing unit. However, here the text is depending only on the way you want it printed on the paper. So it will automatically adjust to this scaling. And I can also do now some annotation. I have this secondary module, dimension line, and I can do some vertical alignment, and I'll choose where I want the dimension line to be placed, and this is what the program asks me. So I say here, and then I'll just move and select the points I want them to be dimensioned. If I want to enter a general dimension, I only have to get close this. Yes. Yes, I'll show you. We can add points in it. There are some settings I didn't present. I could have edited. Before entering the dimension line, we have here some specification, some standards maybe. So for concrete, we can use the fix and not we can use this long slash. And also, I would like a dimension for the text and place it on top. The dimension can be in millimeters. However, for concrete, it's better to work with. Well, we can do it also in inches. It's better for you, I think. In Libya, you use inches or the metric system. In your home country, you use the metric system or the imperial system. Which one? The metric or the imperial? We use metric. Okay, so you won't get butter if we use meters, centimeters at this training. The program also has inches, so you can, when you need in inches, you can dimension. So this is the most intelligent one, meters, centimeters, because it is, well, it's according to some drawing standards. I don't know if you have the same. In our standards, in Romanian standards, if I have something which is smaller than 1 meters, I will enter the value in centimeters. If I exceed 1 meters, I will have 2 point and how many centimeters. And if I have millimeters, it will show the millimeters upward at exponent place. So we'll have like this. If I see 4 followed, yes, it's like this, and you want to add a point. Yes, we can do that. I just right click this dimension line and said add dimension line point, and I can add it. Yes, it's the same as if I want to remove. I just right click it and say delete dimension line point, and I eliminate that point. That is easy. It's easy done. I also wanted to show you here. So I can round off the values. For concrete, for instance, we don't need something more precise than 5 millimeters, or you can choose how precise it works. And also here I can say fixed distance on paper between dimension lines, as if I'm drawing on paper and I want some fixed distance. Usually in our standard is 7 millimeters. And when I'm going now, I'm still in this function dimension line, and I want to add the general dimensions line. If I come close to this existing line, I can add the line on top or under, and it will do the offset with that fixed distance, 7 millimeters. And then again, change some points. And this is the way I will do. If I want horizontal dimensioning, with this function I will also be able to do horizontal dimensioning and still add a general dimensioning. Also, if I want some angle dimensioning, I can choose this angle and then specify where I want the dimension and then select the points. Okay, I can also do like in AutoCAD. If I use this last function, align, direct, so I'm able to choose what I need to dimension and I don't have to specify anything. I can do it in any way. Horizontal, vertical, or oblique. Let's say italic. Okay, so this is for dimensioning, and dimensioning is also affected by scale. If I'm doing this object on 1 to 20, this is the difference between the text and the drawing, because the text is constant on the piece of paper. So if you have a great plan where you use 3 different scaling, it doesn't matter in which scale the detail is drawn, the dimensions should be exactly the same on the piece of paper. So a dimension line is identical. Yes. No, it didn't change the position of the text according to the dimension line. Because of the fact that I first have to specify where I place my dimension line, and then I enter the dimension. The fact is, I can do an optimization here. If I click right here, I can say adjust location, and it will adjust the location of different of this detailing. However, the coordinate is not changed because the moment I entered, it looked okay on 150, but it doesn't look okay on 120. So the only observation here is after I do the drawing, I model the 3D object, it doesn't matter what I model. When I start detailing, I have to choose a good scale, and it's easy to choose a good scale because I look at this object and I place one text is enough or one dimension line, and then I see I can do this on 500. It's too small, the drawing, and the text looks too big. If I choose 1 to 5, it's the opposite. The text is too small according to this object. So it's really easy to determine the scaling, and usually you know the scaling and they are standard. So it's now no room for mistake. I can also have something else. For instance, on this same drawing, I'll need to do this small thing, and I wanted this one to be on a different scale. I want it to be 1 to 10, this small thing, and it looks good on 1 to 10. However, this won't look good on 1 to 10, and there is no problem. The thing is, I'm drawing it one by one. I don't use any scaling factor. However, when we'll do the layouts for printing, I will do some drawing, exactly like in AutoCAD, some viewports, and I'll say I want this detail 1 by 10, and I want this detailed 1 by 50. So in the end, they will look perfectly. Both will have the same dimension for text and will have the correct dimension on paper. So the only thing I want you to remember from this simple exercise is the fact that text is affected by scaling because text is constant on the paper. So scaling actually changes the drawing. However, we perceive as change of the text. I'll say this is was exercise 1. I can also make it bigger, the text, and maybe underline it. We can do many things to it. We have editing functions. So this can be the first exercise we did, and maybe you'll exercise as well. You have here all the dimension, and also in the manual you will see every step of defining the project and drawing this. I'll go next to the second exercise. I'll just right click. I'll also give you the file at the end, so you'll have these drawings as well. and here, okay, I'll draw it on the same file, where I could have used another file, but I'll draw it here because I want to send you just a drawing file. And now I'm doing this simple this table with chairs, let's say it is, and I'll do it like this. I'll use the rectangle function. The rectangle function has some options here. I can choose whether I want all 4 lines to create a polyline, and if I click it here and then select it, it's a full polyline. If I want separate lines, I'll uncheck this, and if I draw this, I have 4 lines here, which I can change. Also, for any shape, I can go through polyline to line and explode the polyline into lines or merge lines into a polyline. Usually a rectangle is better to be a polyline. And I have 4 methods of inserting a rectangle. I can do based on diagonal points, so I mention 2 diagonal points, or I can do based on a baseline. I know a baseline, so I'll do this baseline and then tell it where it should extend. And for any function, we have options here. So precise, we can tell it go here 20 centimeters on this side. I can choose which side to go really precisely, or I can also enter based on a center line. Maybe I want to draw a rectangle from this middle point, like here, and then extend it with a certain width, say 10 centimeters. And also there is this based on center point. Maybe I want a rectangle inside this one. I can start drawing here, and after I say this center point, either I enter the length or I just move the point on the rectangle. It will draw the rectangle. So there are 4 ways of drawing rectangles. We'll do the first way here in order to accomplish this simple exercise. I'll say based on diagonal line. I just click somewhere, the first point, and then I'll go diagonally. I have delta x, which in this case here these are distances in centimeters. I can also work in centimeter if it's easier for me. I can say here centimeters and it won't matter because I think I've shown you before. If I say here meters and I'll draw a line of 1 meter long, I say 1, and then I convert to, I'll work in centimeters for another part and say here 100. It's the same distances. The lines are the same because in Allplan all the time will work naturally as if we are building it. So in the real dimensions, we don't need any scaling. So rectangle, okay, I'll let meters. So on delta x horizontally, we'll move 2 meters. So I'll say here 2 meters. And on delta y, I'll say 0.75. And I've drew my first. Then I'll need to do this chair, and I want to draw it 20 centimeters upwards, and then to be 40 by 40. And I can easily do this. I'll say rectangle. I'll hover over this point, and then before clicking it, I can move the start point of it vertically. So I want him in the positive delta y direction. You see the green one. I'll hit tab in order to select this box for delta y, and I'll say 0.2, and it will take a point which is 20 centimeters above the point I was hovering. And then I'll say the dimensions. I can say 0.4, hit tab, 0.4. And I drew my first chair, and then I can I can copy it to make the others in an array. I can do it like this. I'll say copy this function, and it says select elements you want to copy. We should also always watch this status bar. I'll select the object, start point from this point. Then I can enter how many copies I want. I want x2 2 extra copies. I hit enter after I write 2, and then to point. In order to get this distance, as in the drawing on the left, I'll say 0.8 because it will do 40, the length of the chair, let's say, and then again 40, the distance between chairs. So I say 80 centimeters. And after I click enter, it will automatically do it 2 times because I said I want 2 copies of this chair. So it made another copy at 80 centimeters from the last inserted point. So this is how I did 3 chairs. And now I will mirror these 3 chairs to the other side. I'll say here copy and mirror. I'll select these chairs and I won't click the middle of the point of the middle of the, let's say, table. I'll just get close to the middle. I'll see a blue crossing and then point a direction. It doesn't matter where I click, only point the direction. One click and the second click to be able to know if that is the direction I want. So I'm doing a mirroring across the midpoint, the middle of the table. And now I already cloned, let's say, the chair and table. And then I'll get back to the annotation modules, hit dimension line, vertical line. I'll specify where I need these lines. And then just click the points I need to be dimensioned. Escape, get over this line and have the second layer of annotation marks. So this is about it, this simple exercise. You see in the manual it's described in 30 pages how it's done because it goes through a lot of functions and explains some concept. But I'm showing you the easy way and you can exercise with this manual and also you have this recording. And this can be exercise 2. And I can also underline it. And then I'll do the third exercise with this simple drawer where I'll use more object manipulation and some 2D drafting functions. The manipulation is really important, the copying, the mirror, because it's similar to any type of object. You can do this starting from simple lines to any 3D object, reinforcement, any object is done the same. It's copied, it's moved. 2D is similar to 3D. You'll see it's really, really easy. And now, yes, sure. Yes. Of course. I just drag it like here. You first have to mention where you want it. However, if you don't like it and change your mind later, if you want it standard, we have here some if I want a specific length. However, if I want it standard, I'll just have to enter the distance. So if when I'm doing more precise, let's say 17 millimeters, I'll get here and I have to do some calculation. Think of the scale and then say how much I need. So 7 millimeters to 50 should be 0.35, I think. And now I mentioned the correct distance, the standard distance, and I'm writing. So the first point I have to mention it by distance, which is we should think of the scale because it's the real distance. We'll see it on the paper. Also, we can adjust them manually. Sometimes the drawing is not that simple, and we also can change the position of text because sometimes maybe the two we have some overlapping. We can have this situation where we have this dimension line and then we have another dimension line, and maybe the 75 it's intersected by this line and we don't want it like this. We anytime want to edit something, just right click and say move the dimension text, and we can move it sideways maybe to see it better. So we can do many modifications also manually. Okay, should we go on to this exercise? the third one. This one I'll present the offset functions you know from AutoCAD. I'll get back to the basic module. I'll draw a rectangular, and I can draw this outer rectangle, and I'll say it's I'll hit a point somewhere on the screen and then enter the direction. It's for delta x, I want it to the right, so it's 1.9. Then I hit tab to select delta y, and I want it downwards, so I'll say minus 1.9. Then I'm going to do an offset to get this inner rectangle. And I can do this offset here, parallel lines. I say parallel lines, click on element, I'll enter this polyline. And then I have to mention here in this window, I want to make it a bit bigger. I have it split now, so it's they don't show the full description. Maybe it's okay. It's meant here the offset distance, and the offset distance here is 5 centimeters. So I'll only have to enter here 0.05 because I'm in meters, and then which side I can offset it, outward or inward. I just click it inward, and then he asks me how many parallel lines I need. He can make many parallel lines with this offset option. I only need one, so I hit enter and do this first offset. And then I want to create this drawing by entering a set of offsetted polylines. I can create with a single move more polylines at different offsets, and I'll do this with offset polyline function. Number of parallel lines, I will do this first. I say 1, 2, 3, 4 lines should be enough. 4 parallel lines, and now I'm going to mention the distance. The first will be 0.2, this one. I'll say 0.02 because it's in centimeters. Then 0.56, the second distance here on the left. The third will be this 0.02, and the fourth should be this 0.60. And then I'm going to draw this line. It doesn't matter if I start from above or under, because I can correct myself. It will first, if I start from downward, I see here right and left, because I can offset on the right side, on the left side, all these polylines I've defined before. So if I go here, it I don't like the last distance. It seems it didn't work out. So it offsetted more distances. However, I think I gave one extra distance here. If I want to measure to see how long is this segment, I have this quick measuring tools, measure length, and I hit between 2 points, and I see it's 0.4, and I needed 0.2. I'm also curious about this distance. Maybe this is wrong as well. This one is 0.54, so we need extra 2 to move them on the right. I don't know what I entered wrong, honestly. Yes, it's strange. Maybe we'll do this again. So offline polyline, 4 polylines. I'll say first distance should be 0 this time, and then 0.02 2 centimeters, 0.56, and 0.02. I'm going to do it on this side, and then I'll say to extend it on the right. It's okay. And now it offsetted 2. However, let's see. Here we have 54, and here I have 0.2. I'll check. I don't know why it went strange here. It should have gone correctly. I don't know exactly what happened. So here we have 0.2. This, the first distance was correct. The second is 0.56 because I moved it. Yes, it was 2 centimeters. Didn't interpret it correctly. Okay, I'll look into it. Okay, now it's correct. Yeah, strange. I'll do now I will do a line to do this drawer, and I'll use the same relative lines. I'll stay here on this point and then hit the tab to enter delta y coordinates. Okay, delta y, and now I'll say 0.3. I want to start a line here, or extension line here, 0.3. And then I move until I see the orthogonal sign, which means it will snap to orthogonal position on the line. So I made the first drawer, and then I'll enter this handle with a circle. We have many ways of entering a circle. I'll choose the easiest way now, which is through the center, based on center of the circle, and I'll enter a full circle, not only an arch. And in order to get the middle, I will hover over this edge, hit right click, select midpoint, and go diagonally. And I'll see this circle, and I can enter here the radius, which is 0.03, and I have the handle as well. The only thing left is multiplying the drawers. I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 copies. I'll hit here copy function. I will select from left to right in order to get the line and the circle. So it's just like in AutoCAD, the selection. From point, because of the way I made the selection, it's just like in AutoCAD. If I choose it from left to right, it will only select the object fully enclosed. If I select from right to left, it will select any object selected by this window. So this can be really useful. And it's also in AutoCAD, it's in all CAD systems. Okay, after I select only this, I'll go here copy, and I'll tell him I want extra 5 copies. So actually I'll say first copy. I choose the objects, and then from point, I'll choose this from this point, and I need extra 5 copies, hit enter. And the distance, I won't type the distance, I'll just click here. So I'm doing only once the manual copying in order to tell him the distance, and then he'll do all the other copies. So only from one move we already created the others. And similarly we'll do the copy and mirror. I select these drawers and get close to the middle of the drawer, it will snap to it, and then after I indicate the axis, I hit once and hit again to confirm this is the mirror lining. The only thing left is entering this center handle. I'll use rectangle function, and this based on center. And in order to get the center point of this, I can do it 2 ways. One easy way would be hover over this and get a blue cross there, hover over this and get a blue cross here, and then when I get to the middle of this virtual line, it will say midpoint of track line. So if I click, I'm in the middle, and I only need to enter some dimension. I'll say 10 centimeters the length, and the width will be 0.5 or 0.2. So I entered also, and then just add some dimension, and this exercise is finished as well. I see that 150 is a too small scale. I'll try something bigger, 120, and already see here it adjusts it more, it adjusts it better. So there is no real science in establishing what the scale should be. Also, you see here that because of the fact if he were to place 5 over, it will can be confused with 25. This is the reason why he moved. If we don't like this, we can change as well. We'll move this here and this one here, and maybe it won't get mistaken if one is over the other. We can do things like this, and then I'll also do here some dimensioning, and also here. Most important is when we hit a dimension, you'll see this red axis. These are the points that are actually dimensioned. If they are similar with the points we are drawn, when we'll do changes, the dimensions will change as well. So if I'm here to change the size of the drawer, I can use these stretch entities. I can select this side and say I want here 50, the distance. I'll choose from this point to get here by 10 centimeters. And not only it changed the drawing, but it also changed the annotation. And this can be available for anything. I can change maybe this drawer size, and I get the modification also in the annotation. Okay, this was about it, and tomorrow we'll do these 3D objects. You'll see that it will be really easy. However, your homework would be to draw this. I'm saving you now the recording, and I'll send it via mail. You'll receive